This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. Let's get to Twitter. We asked our listeners here if they had a question for you. If you'd like to ask a question for next week's show or any show, follow us on Twitter at The Arn Show, and just keep an eye out for those tweets and drop your question below and we'll get to them. Arn, let's do a few here. Mike wants to know, what was a more brutal structure, the Elimination Chamber or the old War Games?
I didn't give a chance to work in the Elimination Chamber. I did in the War Games. I would say, though, just walking around in there and watching talent and listening to talent, probably the more brutal and the more unforgiving was probably Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, I don't know how you can even debate that, especially when you consider the floor. I mean, that's just rough stuff, man. Rajiv wants to know, he says, John Cena has often been criticized for holding newer performers down. Do you think Kevin Owens beating him here like this was to silence those critics? If not, what's the reason to have KO beat John here and then lose 2 pay-per-view matches in a row to him at the following 2 pay-per-views? I think a lot of people were sort of asking that, like, why is John no longer going for the world title? Now he's going for the US title, and he's letting the new guy on the block beat him on pay-per-view multiple times. Is this John transitioning to outside the ring, or is there more to it?
Well, maybe that he knew his career was going to take a different turn, and maybe that would quell some of the detractors, that a lot of adults think John, because he is the guy that does the right thing and says the right thing and the kids love him and all that, that's immediately going to chap a few adults' ass. But maybe he thought that would, get rid of some of the detractors because he knew he was going to disappear for a while and do some acting anyway. But I agree with the fans that said he shouldn't have never lost the next 2 matches.
Right.
Kevin Owens. It should have been, first class steamroll straight ahead.
Let's talk about, the 3 colognes here. Kurt wants to know, what does Arn think caused all 3 colognes, Carlito, then Epico and Primo, from receiving any sort of sustained top success in the company? Was it their ties to Puerto Rico or something else?
No, I don't think it had anything to do with that. Carlito got a nice shove there for a while. And the other guys were a very good team. They really were. Primo and Epico. I don't know why, other than the fact that they were just good workers, but didn't have this incredible muscle bound look or, these monsters that they were looking for. And, who knows?
We got a lot of questions about Ryback here. I'm going to hit you with 2 of them and then we'll wrap things up. Rajiv wants to know, in your opinion, what makes a good Intercontinental Champion? And do you think Ryback checked those boxes? I think the insinuation here is, for a lot of years, way back when, this was sort of positioned as the quote unquote workers belt for guys like Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect and Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage. And Ryback has a more heavyweight style look, but I don't think you could say necessarily that he had maybe the lumbering style of a Hulk Hogan. Yet certainly there's some power moves, but much more agile performer. But I think that's the insinuation that Rajiv is going for. Do you think there needs to be a certain style Intercontinental Champion?
No, not really. And I always had the opinion, and maybe I was wrong, who knows? But I looked at those guys, the Rick Rudes and the Mr. Perfects and, the Steamboats and all these guys that were the Intercontinental Champion. I looked at them as being the next WWF champion.
Right.
That was what I was looking at. They're getting ready to move these guys up, and they took care of the Intercontinental Champion. When you were running 2 towns a night, the Intercontinental Champion would headline one show and the WWF champion would headline the other. So in essence, they were 2 main event guys, and at a very high level, the Intercontinental Champion was just maybe 1 pay-per-view away from the next step up.
Last one about Ryback. I don't know why Ryback has so many haters. Joshua wants to know, do you think Ryback got a bigger push just because of his size and body than other people with his skill set would have received? I don't know about this question, Arn. I guess the insinuation here is, do you think it's quote unquote unfair when a guy with a better look gets a bigger push?
Was it unfair to push the Ultimate Warrior? It was based on his physique. Wasn't his work rate, wasn't his promo ability. It was based on his body. Ryback's a lot better worker than Warrior was.
Of course.
And he could go out, and I had one of his matches at WrestleMania. I think it was on the pre-show with Kalisto. And they had about 15 minutes. And you know what? There's a huge size disparity there. And Ryback went out and had a match with the kid, and it made sense, and it was entertaining. I think Ryback got the look and got the first consideration because of his body, but then guys saw that he could move and he could do some stuff and he could get around that ring. And I do think, to his downfall, when you have an opinion and you believe in yourself, that's great, as long as the guy sitting in the big chair believes in you too. But if you have a belief in yourself and you have an opinion about yourself and it is contrary to what is being thrown at you from creative, that's not received very well. And that might have been the ditch that he fell in, which was his demise.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.